Are you a parent of a child with a behavior disorder like ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, and there's a new one. It's called intermittent explosive disorder. Apparently, if your child has explosive attacks or meltdowns over here at somebody else's house or at home but not at school, well, that's intermittent explosive disorder. You know what? There's so many different types of disorders and childhood mental issues that I cannot even keep up, and it doesn't matter. I want to share with you a story of hope. You know, yesterday I shared that the industry, the business of oppositional defiant disorder and behavior disorders is due to reach $26.3 billion in 2028. Oh, and let me look at the treatment outlooks that they got for you. Number one, medication management. You know, mind-altering and mood-altering drugs can help for a little while. I mean, if you have like a glass of wine, that might open you up a little bit at a party to be able to talk. Are you with me? But is it a long-term solution, really? I mean, if your child can't focus, how is medication going to help them focus at their job when they're an adult later on? So all these questions entered my mind because I had studied personal development for 18 years by the time my oldest son was almost 13, and I had put him on medication. I shared that story a little bit yesterday. I'm going to share yesterday's video in the link below so you can see part one of the story. The whole point here is to give you hope that there are solutions outside of medication management, individual therapy, family therapy, group therapy, and you know, some of our clients have spent more than $30,000 on therapy and this type of solutions before finding us and realizing how simple it was to help their kids. And that's the whole purpose of me sharing my story with you here today. So I want to share how God has his hands on this because I'm going to post a video tomorrow in TikTok, and it's all about if I were the devil, I would mess up kids. I would cause chaos in homes. I would cause families to argue because if there was negative and positive energies on our planet, and you know that there's happiness and sadness, right? There's anger, and then there is joy. There is inability to focus, and then focus. There is impulsivity, and then there is self-control. And these are some of the things that is missing in the solutions for these children that are dealing with these disorders. And should I say for the parents that are dealing with these disorders. And so I truly believe that God has his hands on this. I did not choose to become a parenting coach by any means. I didn't go to, I want to be a parenting coach and then go to school for that. I have been studying personal development since 1994. So we're over 30 years now in the study of what makes people succeed in life. And just like if you were to have different types of plants in pots, for instance, if you stopped watering any different type of plant, what would happen to the plant? So do you blame the plant, or do you create a new environment where you actually water them with the exact amount of water that each different plant needs? And you and I both know the answer for that. We don't blame the plant. We start watering the plant and the plant begins to thrive, right? So here I am in fetal position in the bathroom on the floor, locked the door because it was the only place that I could get privacy with 4 kids between the ages of 6 and 12. I was buying into there's something wrong with my kids. They have whatever learning disabilities, or there's something wrong with them that they can't just listen to what it is that I'm telling them to do, because somewhere along the way we've been conditioned as parents to believe that when we speak, the child should just know to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll get right on it, without ever teaching them life skills in advance. And we hear this all the time. I just want my kids to listen to me. And if that's you, give me a comment below. Do you want your kids to actually listen to you? Would you like the siblings to get along with one another? Would you like your kids to be independent? I promise you, they can do it. It is possible. Your kids are quite capable of doing all of these things in the correct, healthy environment. So anyways, here I am, totally hopeless as a parent, like literally giving up, thinking, oh, maybe when I have grandkids, life will be better. And the business that I was in at the time started to slow down. And I'm sharing this story with you because I'm going somewhere. How did I discover the solutions, and how did I know that they were solutions when I actually found them? And it started like this. I actually, it's funny, but I actually wrote on a piece of paper everything that I wanted in a man, like in a husband. And I took the time to do that. And then through a series of events, I met this gentleman. And I thought, is this gentleman the guy on my list? And this was about September, October-ish. And in November, this gentleman that I was dating says, there's a cruise ship, a personal development cruise ship in the Bahamas come January. Would you like to go with me? And so I'm like, absolutely. So I go on this cruise ship. It was probably the first or second week in January of 2011. And it was a 4-day cruise ship. And on the third night, like about 6 hours before the end of the cruise ship, this gentleman who I met in the first hour of the cruise, so because he was from Quebec and his name was Luke, and I just remember him. And I remember seeing Luke and talking to Luke several times throughout the cruise ship. He was a pretty interesting character. So about 6 hours before it was time to exit the cruise ship, Luke finds me and he says, oh my gosh, I've been looking for you everywhere. There's somebody you've got to meet. And he brings me over and he introduces me to this man. And he goes, Bonnie, Tom, Bonnie. And by the way, Bonnie, Tom has a radio show. And so I love empowering people to step into their power and to teach them the success principles, teach them to believe in themselves so they can win in their life. I wasn't winning with my kids, but I was definitely winning in personal development. And so I'm thinking, Tom has a radio show. I better befriend this person because maybe he'll interview me and I can spread the word and I can become famous. So that opened up the door for a relationship between Thomas and myself. He lived in Seattle. I lived in Canada. And so we talked on the phone several times. And during these conversations, Tom says, I think I can help you become a better speaker. I can help you create more success. And I mean, I was a single mom. I didn't want for anything. I was driving a big silver platinum Lexus. I had a 7-bedroom, what I thought was a mansion at the time with a pool in the backyard. And, you know, my kids didn't want for anything. I didn't want for anything. And I'm thinking, like, what are you going to be able to teach me, right? So anyway, we have this phone call and he teaches me linguistics. He taught me that I was speaking a lot of double negatives, right? So a double negative would be, how are you? And your response would be, not bad. Doesn't tell me exactly what you are. I just know what you're not with a double negative, right? So I had an aha moment during that conversation, and during the time that Tom and I talked back and forth, I started to realize, like, this character's really smart and I think we could do something together. So by May, I said, I phoned Tom, and see, my mouth was saying one thing and my mind was thinking something completely different. But my mind was thinking, you don't need somebody else in your business. You can do this on your own. And my mouth was saying, Tom, would you like to come to Canada and help me put together a workshop called the Foundation for Life to help entrepreneurs believe in themselves and help them create success? And he says, sure. So I flew him to Canada, and that's when he met my kids for the very first time. Now, Tom never said anything. Like, I didn't know that he'd ever worked with kids before. And we're going to share Tom's story more tomorrow. But this is just leading to the series of events of how things went to bring the solution for what I told you already was projected to be a $26.3 billion industry. And so just to bring it up, our kids, our sick kids with mental health issues, it's a business, right? I didn't know that back then at the time. So I'm hoping that I'm giving you an aha moment with this video right now. Anyways, I invite him to Canada. He meets my kids for the first time. I think I'm the best mom in the world. I did everything for my kids. I read them stories every night. I made sure that they didn't want for anything. I provided everything for my kids. I had 3 levels to my house. So if there was somebody downstairs, Mom, Jacob's hitting me, I'd run downstairs and was the referee. And then, Mom, I'm hungry. And I'd go upstairs and I was the cook. And then I was the maid, right? I was the planner. I was the driver. Like, I did everything for my kids because I'm sure you know this, but we've been taught somewhere in this generation that if you want to be a good parent, you must do, be, and have everything for your kids. So here I am thinking I'm the greatest mom in the world. I'm the best servant, maid, chauffeur. I'm the best that there ever was for my kids. Meanwhile, they're dealing with mental health issues, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, anxiety, depression, and there were literally no solutions other than the solutions I read you at the beginning of this video, right? These are still the same solutions, and we're talking, this is 10 years later, and the solutions that they go for, medication, they do talk about emotional skills training, which is really good. I agree with that. Evaluations, and then therapy, and more therapy, right? This is the solution today, same solution as it was 10 years ago, which isn't a solution at all because I know this because some of our clients have been dealing with these solutions for over a decade by the time they find Creating Champions for Life. So I just thank God that Thomas came into my life when he did come into my life. But the very first sign of hope was one night, it was getting close to bedtime, and my youngest was 6.5. And when you read all your kids a bedtime story and you have 4 of them, bedtime takes a really long time, right? And so I'm thinking, like, we could stay on track. And I knew that Zach was going to have a meltdown. Because when you have oppositional defiant disorder, what else is there? When you do something that they don't want you to do, they melt down. So I'm walking around on tiptoes. I've got a guest in my house, and so I'm just dreading the temper tantrum that's going to come because I know it's going to be 2, 3, 4 hours long, as it was every single night of his life at bedtime. So as nice as I possibly could, I'm like, Zach, it's almost time for bed. It's time to put your pajamas on. And Zach comes up the stairs and immediately goes into that whine. And if you're raising an oppositional defiant disorder child, you know what I'm talking about. It starts off as a whine, but I don't want to go to bed. And I'm bracing myself for what's to come. And Tom comes around the corner and he says, hey, Zach, do you want to go to bed right now with a story, or in 10 minutes from now all by yourself? And, you know, offering choices, you may or may not have heard that before, because I think gentle parenting, conscious parenting may offer choices, which is fine. Okay, so he offers him a choice. So I'd never heard to offer a choice before. It was the first time in Zach's life that I ever saw him go, oh, I get to think, I get to make a choice on my own. But here's something else that I'd never seen before, is Tom goes, well, do you know what 10 minutes looks like on the clock? And Zach goes, no. And so Tom took him over and showed him what 10 minutes exactly looked like on the clock, and then handed the responsibility over to Zach. And I'm thinking, okay, in 10 minutes from now, we'll repeat the process all over again. But that didn't happen. Zachary comes running up the stairs, big smile on his face, says, I love you, good night, gives me a big hug, gives Tom a hug, and runs up to bed. And I never saw him again till morning. And I'm like, what the heck? Thinking, okay, well, maybe it's because there's a stranger in the house. I don't know. I kind of took it as fluke, but it was the first really bright light that I ever saw with Creating Champions for Life. And I was like, okay, that was really cool. So then Tom goes back to Seattle. We're building this workshop. I have no idea he's ever worked with kids. He comes back 2 or 3 weeks later, and this time the 2 younger kids, Tom and I, are in the vehicle. And the kids are going, hey, Tom, can I play Angry Birds on your phone? Now, like, I mean, bear in mind, they all have their own phones. They had Nintendo DSs. They had an Xbox. They had a karaoke machine. They had a computer. Like, they had everything that they could ever want or need. But for whatever reason, they're asking Tom, can I play on your phone? And Tom goes, oh, what's one thing you could do to put a smile on your mom's face? And they just started cleaning up the back seat. So I'm driving and this conversation's going on and it's like, whew, over my head. But they start cleaning and organizing the papers in the back seat, and they've got the little, what do you call it? The rags, the Armor All rags, and they're kind of wiping everything down. And I pull into my driveway and we get out of the car and I go into the house and I'm standing at the door. I'm waiting for my kids. So they were 6 and 9 at the time. So I'm waiting for them to come in, but they don't come in. 5 minutes goes by and I'm thinking, like, where are my kids? So I go outside. I go, guys, why don't you come on in? And they go, oh, we can't come in. We're not done cleaning yet. Like, is that an aha moment? Like, what do you mean they're not done cleaning yet? Like, would you be shocked if your kid said, well, Mom, I can't come in yet because I'm not done cleaning yet? Like, I mean, before this, I could be having cardiac arrest on the driveway and my kids would look at me and play on their video games, right? So anyways, this happened. And so I'm starting to see a coincidence. Every time Tom's around, the kids they're different. They're happier. They're more engaged. They're doing some chores. They're getting along. They're helping each other out. Cause like, I mean, Zach came to the door one time, I remember, and he's like, Mom, Jacob hit me. And then Tom goes, well, what happened 10 minutes just before that? And he just kind of bout-faced, turned away and walked away, right? And I'm thinking, where did you learn to talk to kids like this? And then he tells me, well, I had a martial arts school. I had an after-school program, and I've worked with kids my whole life. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, like, I've known people that have worked with kids their whole life, and they don't talk to kids like this. So he went back to Seattle. I didn't really understand the extent of it, but I knew that he knew something that I didn't know. I was researching on my computer anything like asking questions versus dictating, guiding behavior versus punishment. I was looking for any type of goal-oriented, solution-oriented parenting, and I couldn't find anything anywhere. And so what happened was I walked into the house one day and all 4 of my kids are lounged all over the couch. You know what I'm talking about, right? They're kind of like watching TV, my big screen TV in my living room that I never had access to because the kids had overtaken my house. And so I go to my office and I phone Tom and I'm like, Tom, what was that question that you asked when the kid, you want the kids to do something? And he goes, go in there and ask, hey guys, what should we be doing right now? So I wrote it on a little sticky note and I put it up on my computer. Seems simple, right? Try that today. Hey guys, what should we be doing right now? So I go into the other room and I ask them this question and they all look at me like, I don't know. So obviously they thought they could get away with that from me. So does this seem like children whose brains don't work? I mean, these are very bright children, right? They know who they can play. And so I go to the other room and I'm like, I phone Tom back and I go, Tom, they said, I don't know. Now what do I say? He goes, go back in there and say this. He goes, I know you don't know, but if you had to guess, what would the answer be? And so I went in there and I asked them that question and they all 4 of them go, our chores, and they turned the TV off and they went to work and started working. And so, oh my gosh, like after about 6 months, I had hundreds of sticky notes all over my office, all over my computer with this really special, unique language that I couldn't find anywhere else. I was about $20,000 a month earner in business at that time. I had about 10,000 people in my organization underneath me. I was public speaking all over North America. So there was people that kind of depended on me. And I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my gosh, I could have just transformed my house. Like I could have just used these techniques and used this special language and transform my house, which I did. And I could have just left it at that. I'm the only mom in the world that knows how to parent with empowerment. which is totally opposite from every single positive, disciplined parenting style you can find. I'm talking attachment parenting, conscious parenting, gentle parenting, positive parenting. They're all based on with the same root, that it puts the child in control, basically. Like, the child is the cause, the parent's reaction is the effect. You walk in, they're doing something you don't like. Now what do I do? That's very reactive. But in the laws of success, like when you study success principles, it's all about being proactive. And Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. So it's think first, create goals, create a plan, take action on the plan, and create success. That's the whole formula. But in parenting, it's like we give birth to these babies. At the age of 2, we start telling them no, don't, can't, stop. We start controlling their behavior, and it's not us. We're taught to do this by every single parenting philosophy out there that I can still find. And I mean, we've been with Creating Champions for Life, actively working it for 12 years now. But yeah, nothing. There was nothing out there in the world to exist, and there still isn't anything in the world to exist. And when you look at this and you read this article, and it talks about a 5% increase in child mental behavior disorder issues year after year after year, and we're doing the same thing, but we're actually, this is the first generation in the history of mankind where loving our children is the number one priority for parents. Because if we go back 100 years ago and beyond, teaching life skills and duplicating the parents' effort on the farm was the number one priority. And if you do any type of due diligence at all, any type of research, watch the Spartans. At 6 or 7 years old, they were sending their children off to camp to learn how to become warriors for their tribe, right? But today, 6-year-olds, like, I hadn't taught my 6-year-old one life skill. I had done everything for him, and I had basically smothered their desire, their motivation, all 4 of my kids, their ambition, their zest for life, because I provided everything for them and never gave them an opportunity to set their own goals. So to me, this is godly. I really feel like it's up to us to take our kids back. It's up to us to learn some new things that can help protect and save our children from society who, I mean, if you were projected to reach the growth of $26.3 billion in the next 5 years, would you be looking for anything else? Or would you be running a business and driving medication as your solution? I'm just throwing it out there. That is my story. That is how I met Tom. That is because when I said to Tom, like, oh, you have a parenting philosophy here, we should do something with it. And he said, oh, you know, when we're done all of our other work, we can do something with it then. But after 6 months, and I literally saw a total transformation in my house. My house was more in order. The kids were getting along. They were being cooperative. They seemed like they had a new zest for life. They were happier, like cooking me breakfast in bed to earn sleepovers and this kind of thing. And gosh, like, I just can't keep it to myself. I want to shout this from the rooftops. You may or may not listen to it. But tomorrow I'm going to introduce you to Tom, and he's going to share with you his experience working with thousands and thousands of children over the last 30 years and how he does things differently. And I'm hoping that this video just gives you hope that there is a better way than what we're doing right now. Thank you for watching. Please click like on the video, share it out with your friends. Let's get the word out that there is another way besides giving our children psychostimulant drugs.